All right, everybody, this is Ahab. That's the Goon Tick. Welcome to episode 3. That's 6, actually, right here. But 3 of Stephen King's Shit or Hit. Where two fat fucks decide whether a Stephen King movie is shit or hit.
It's pretty self-explanatory.
We said that last time, but we'll say it again. Mm-hmm. Today's episode is brought to you by British accents. The bad guy's accent. That was a bad accent.
That was a horrible accent.
Anywho, let's move on to something less embarrassing.
Yep.
Actually, no. We're not moving on to something
it's true. It's actually quite fitting that you busted that one out.
Today, we ventured into territory, unexplored territory a bit.
The rare sequel to a Stephen King movie.
Yeah. I mean, we're not going to cover a lot of sequels because there's a lot, like, for example, Children of the Corn has a million.
Yeah, screw that shit.
But we're going to cover, ones that are direct sequels or that are, relatively fitting to cover. For example, our second episode, we talked about 1976's adaptation of Carrie. Mm-hmm. And this movie we saw today is a direct sequel to that.
Yep.
And
it was a movie.
It was a movie we saw.
It was a movie that was made in the 90s, 1999.
Yeah, this movie was made in 1999. 1999, you said?
I think so.
1990, late 90s anyway.
Yeah.
And it shows.
Yeah.
But it was directed by Kat Shea, who, I mean, that should have been a red flag from the get-go. Because at that point in time, she was only known pretty much for one movie, and that was Poison Ivy with Drew Barrymore, which was kind of like a little cult, kind of like sex thriller, typical of the 90s. And, it was just a very cliche type of sex thriller of the time. It's something you'd expect from the 90s. And, I mean, that just kept on going in this movie. Yeah. Coincidentally, this was her last big movie.
It's not surprising.
Poison Ivy was her first big movie. Before that, she did work for Roger Corman. Another red flag.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Oh, and the previous director, there was a director before her attached to this. He quit over creative differences.
That makes a lot of sense.
Another good sign. And the writer of this movie was the guy that wrote Hackers, which was a fairly decent kind of like cult movie from the 90s that's aged horribly, by the way. But Carrie, too, his last movie he ever wrote.
Oh.
So this movie was a tombstone from the get-go.
Yeah, it killed a lot of people. What's like Carrie?
We had hope for it because our good friend and sometimes collaborator, Senor Spirbergo, said it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, he said he saw it again and didn't hate it as much.
Yeah. I, on the other hand...
A glowing endorsement.
Yeah, I never gave this a chance. I was like, oh man, come on, a sequel this much time later and there's really no links and blah, blah, blah. I guess I should have left it that way. But let's talk about this movie. Just from the get-go, let's just tell you right now, this is shit. This is not a hit.
It's not good.
This is not a hit. Yeah, it's not based on anything that Stephen King wrote, obviously. This is just based off concepts in the original movie. So it's a sequel to the movie. Yeah, it's a sequel to the movie. So let's get that out there. Overall impression, I mean, we already said it's shit.
It's definitely our first Stephen King's shit.
Yeah, this is definitely the first Stephen King shit. I did not enjoy this movie. But I will say, I should say, I didn't enjoy this movie the way it was intended to be enjoyed. I did enjoy it in other senses, and that's more in the cornball area. But we'll get to that. Where do we even start? Let's start with the music, because we started with that in our last few videos. Now, we were kind of bothered by the first half of the score in the original Carrie, because it's very dated and of the times. And they kind of went for the same effect, not just with the music, but with the entirety of the film. It's just a pale imitation of the first.
Yeah,
it follows the similar beats, but much less effectively and super of the time. So this movie is... The score is just a slice of the 90s.
Let's just say the first song you hear is a ska song.
Yeah.
So that should tell you.
It starts with an actual score, like a theme. That was actually kind of cool. It was
all right.
But from that point forward, you're just hearing soundtrack selections.
Yeah.
And the soundtrack selection is bizarre.
Yeah.
It's very 90s. Sometimes you get a heavy metal song. Sometimes you get a ska song. Sometimes you get an alternative song.
There's a weird selection of like old jazz music occasionally.
When this is the exception to the rule, is the exception to the 90s soundtrack is when we see Carrie on her own either at work or at home, and she has an affinity towards old-timey jazz. But again, I'm sorry, Carrie, Rachel, the Carrie character, if you were.
The character.
She apparently has an affinity for jazz. It adds no substance to her character, other than, I guess, it's supposed to denote she's different from everybody else. I guess. But really, she's not that different. She has
like a freaking room that is the 90s, the room.
Yeah, I mean, so let's go from that to the characters, because that's a good segue right there. The big one, of course, would be the replacement Carrie, the would-be Carrie, and that's Rachel Lang, who we find out at the beginning of the movie lived under similar circumstances as the original Carrie. Later in the movie, just by convenience, we find out that her mother was the lover that Carrie's father left Carrie's mother for. Now,
I didn't care for this twist.
No, because it wasn't a twist. It wasn't. I mean, you're like, I don't know if you were, but I was like, it's obviously there's gonna be a relation here.
Yeah, definitely.
And so when
I was expecting something more clever, not just this is what it is.
It wasn't clever at all, and the timeline gets all fucked up because we know Ralph left before Carrie was born. So this guy left Carrie's fanatical schizophrenic, crazy ass mom for another fanatical Christian schizophrenic weirdo. It doesn't make sense that he would leave one woman for the basic same woman. Also, then he would wait all those years. Yeah,
wouldn't she be the same age as Carrie?
Yeah, she would be. I mean, that's where the timeline gets screwed up, because you just assume he stayed with the same woman he left, basically, and then eventually humped her, and then they had a kid years and years later. I mean, it's like
not good.
Yeah, it's like a 10 to 15 year difference, if, I mean, you take into account how old the Rachel character is supposed to be. But it's still like, what the fuck? This timeline sucks. It makes no sense. But whatever, that's the big twist, and you're like, who gives a shit? Yeah. There is a very tenuous link between the two besides that one, and that is that the character of Sue Snell, which is very important in the original Carrie and the book, it comes back. And this go round, she's a guidance counselor at this high school, which our, up-and-coming new Carrie, as it were, is attending. And she begins to notice signs of the telekinetic activity. I think a much more interesting movie would have been if we followed Sue as a character, as a main character, not the way she's portrayed in the movie, but if we followed Sue as a main character and we got to see her experience this phenomena again, but from this point of view, as an outsider, as she is the outsider seeing an outsider, she's not as high school student. That would have been a much more interesting movie than what we got. Instead, we got Sue.
Her character's pointless as hell.
Yeah, it's ultimately wasted. All she's there for is for you, the viewer, to understand that, one, this movie is linked to the first one. Two, Carrie has telekinetic powers. We already knew that, so who cares? There was no need for her. No. And then, when she brings up,
there's like a subplot with her getting her mom.
When she brings up the past, she kind of tries to help Rachel understand her own abilities, and tries to stop history from happening again, so to speak. And part of her plot is to go get her mother.
Yeah.
No payoff. That was more payoff than the movie.
It's literally she breaks her mom out
in the stupidest way ever. By the way.
And then during the massacre at the end, her mom goes up to Carrie. We're just gonna call her Carrie, by the way, and goes, "You're not my daughter," and then runs away.
The bad part about, it's awful from the get-go, but the awful part, going back to Sue's character, she has this entire subplot where her big plan is to get her mother to help Carrie not go off the edge. It's becoming
a thing. Just call her Carrie.
To help Rachel not go off the edge, not become Carrie, literally, right? And I don't understand how a schizophrenic fanatic is gonna help Carrie.
Her plot makes no sense.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Her idea to stop it makes zero sense, and her attempts to reach out are terrible.
Yeah,
it's like, what happened to that globe, or she tries to make sure that she saw certain things, and you're like, dude,
she doesn't. She's given no productive dialogue whatsoever. But yeah, her big plan is to get her mom to come and confront her, and somehow that's going to stop her from going over the edge. But anyway, she breaks out her mom from an asylum
in the worst way possible.
Yeah, like, here, I'll distract this lady, this nurse, by asking for my purse, and you run out. Meanwhile, there's a guard that immediately apprehends another inmate that sees the escape, and you're like, the guard was right there. How did you not see this other bitch get out?
Don't forget her ingenious plot to thwart the magnetic lock by putting gum in it.
Oh my god.
That's how that works.
Look, I've been locked up. That does not work.
I mean, it does, though.
It does not. But anyway, stupid plan. She finally gets to the big scene at the end, the faux prom scene, because now it's basically the same concept, only in another.
It's the same movie, only shit.
Yeah, only completely shitty. But she finally brings the mom there, and like you said, the mom just kind of like, oh, Carrie calls her. Somehow she recognizes her mom's voice.
Yeah.
I was Carrie, Rachel. Somehow she recognizes her mom's voice in the fray. God knows. She hasn't seen this woman in years.
Yeah, well, no, she has. They established that she
her. Either way, you're fucking pissed. You're killing 1,000 people at once. You're going to recognize that one.
It doesn't matter. It would have been fine. That would have been fine if there was a payoff, but there wasn't.
There was no payoff.
It's literally just, you're not my daughter. You got the devil in you.
Yeah, I mean,
run away. End of character.
And then it was previously established that the woman was still very much a psychotic. Yeah. So why would Sue continue this plan, thinking it was going to come, to fruition in a good way? So yeah, it's supposed to like show how alone Rachel is, but by that time in the movie, you're like, she's not alone. She's a pretty functional human being. Yeah. Unlike Carrie in the original, she was ostracized. She was awkward. She felt not in place. This chick's like, you could fit in, chick. Yeah. There's a fucking scene for you. There's people that like you, apparently, because there was a guy called Arnie that just popped up and was a friend all of a sudden.
I'm not going to say Arnie was the best character in this
movie. We'll get to Arnie, but let's go back to this situation. So yeah, the mom gets she just fucking leaves, I guess. Who cares?
Yeah, she literally just leaves, and then the
but here's the biggest problem with that. That's all part of the Sue subplot that linked it to part one.
The problem is the plot sucks.
Hold on. So the big problem is Sue gets there. Rachel's already killing everyone, and Sue dies immediately. Yeah. So you're like, what the fuck was the
pointless.
point?
It's really pointless.
Who gives a shit? And then on top of that, the mom, and then on top of that, overall, the idea sucks.
There's literally a subplot that takes up a good portion of the movie that just ends. Yeah. Pointlessly.
And that happens a lot in the movie. But anyway, we'll get to that. With Arnie. Arnie was this character. He appeared at the beginning of the movie. He appeared in the middle, sort of, and then at the end.
Okay. Like, I'm not going to say Arnie was the most consistent yet inconsistent thing in this movie.
No shit, man.
But he kind of was.
I don't understand. Perhaps he had more lines and they just cut him for time.
I think so.
Because this movie, even though it's like an hour and 40-something minutes, it seems eternal.
Super long. I thought it was just me.
It's horribly paced because they spend too much time on the bullies that are just generic bullies, man. Yeah. You could pick any 90s teen comedy or drama, and that's them right there. And then it spends too much time on them.
It's too much on the build-up.
Yeah, too much build-up, and then the payoff, by the time it pays off, it's nothing.
Oh, God. And the build-up isn't good. It's not interesting, so you're like, okay.
It's too predictable, and it's too slow and too uninteresting. My God, some of the worst dialogue. But anyway, we're getting off topic here. Let's get to the real subject here, and that's Arnie.
Arnie's great.
Okay, look, Arnie shows up at the beginning.
He's not, by the way. He sucks.
In class, in a scene that mirrors the class scene, the poetry class scene in the original. It's just a copy of that, only lamer. But anyway, he shows up as this kind of like goofy, kind of nerdy type guy, right? And he has one line, and you're like, oh, it's that guy from American Pie. Who cares? But then later, about halfway through, when Carrie is seen canoodling with the nice jock guy,
whose name I forgot
too, he comes up to her and he's like, "Oh, you better stay away from him because you're pissing off the chick he went out with before, the popular chick."
And you're suddenly, like him and Carrie, I'm just gonna call her Carrie by the way. Him and Carrie have like this relationship apparently that we didn't know about.
It's implied in the dialogue that they are like friends, and you're like, "What the fuck?" And you think, maybe he's just a nice guy that's looking out for her because he's a nerd too, right? Or an outcast too. No, because later in the movie when she shows up at the mimic faux black prom, which in this case is just a party, he's like, "Hey, Rachel, get me into this party." And she's like, "I'll get you in, bud." And you're like, what the fuck? Where was this guy? Why is he just pop in?
Yeah, why is he suddenly like the most important character on Earth?
Okay, so he sucks, but he's...
Arnie's awesome, though.
Let's talk about the other characters, the jocks. Like I said, stock characters.
Yeah.
But you did, like I did, want to strangle one of them.
Yes, the guy who bangs her brother?
Her sister, her friend, her best friend.
In the beginning, his face is so punchable.
He's one of the most annoying looking fucks out there.
He's 90s and his face looks like he's dumb.
He's super 90s. He belongs in a
really
boy
90s,
band.
yeah.
And man, yeah, he just needed the puka shell necklace.
Yeah.
That's all he needed. But yeah, these guys are generic as hell. They have the point system of fucking.
Yeah.
How many times have we seen that, man? That's pathetic. That's slow level bullshit.
It's not, and it's
And the point system makes no sense. By the way,
the point system makes zero sense. It's like, hold on, you get 2 points for converting a lesbo? Shouldn't that be like 10,000? Anyway, it doesn't make sense.
It sucked.
It's terrible point system.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to other characters. We pretty much covered, the secondary and tertiary characters, and Arnie. Let's not forget Arnie.
Arnie's awesome.
But
He's not.
The main one, Rachel Lang. When she's depicted as a child, worst actress
Oh
ever.
my god, I thought this was just me. I wanted to punch that kid's face. Never have I wanted to strangle a kid. And it's only because of the acting, not necessarily because I want to strangle a kid.
Terrible actress.
Worst actress ever.
Now, when she was a teenager, the actress is very capable. And you could see her maybe fulfilling this role well if the script was good. But the script is shit.
Yeah.
And her dialogue is shit.
It's terrible.
And her character development is shit. So you don't care about her.
Yeah.
That's the big problem. She's fine. She's capable. I could see her acting well. I mean, she wasn't horrible. She wasn't abominous. It was just like, what? If anything, she proved so capable with what she was given that she, like I aforementioned, she doesn't seem like an outcast. She just seems like a girl that was into a different scene, and she had a friend, and you never feel it. Let's get to the friend. Okay, we're gonna go into a little character that dies at the beginning of the movie. This is a big plot point because this is kind of what sets Rachel's character, I guess, on the downward spiral. Even though you don't see her spiral anywhere, never. But anyway, her best friend dies. Okay, and her reaction is limited to her seeing the body, some shock, I guess. And then she runs off.
Oh, man!
In this,
Can we talk about these?
Like 0 frames per second shot.
Can we talk about these freaking sub PS1 FMV?
We'll get to the weird effects and visuals right now. But anyway, she runs off in this weird effect into the woods. And then you're like, I guess she mourned?
Yeah.
Never mourns again.
I mean,
you don't see her.
No, not really.
No, you don't. I mean, she gets angry that people are like, that dude fucked her friend and then broke up with her, and that's the reason she committed suicide. But you'd think that would be enough for her to bar herself from all his friends, which are douchebags.
Yeah.
Consistently with her.
It doesn't even make sense because at the end they kind of do like this reveal of sorts that it was that guy that banged her friend. But she knew this.
Yeah,
she knew this from the beginning.
It was supposed to kind of be like that scene where they're just rubbing it in, like ha ha ha.
But it was treated like, oh, look at this twist.
I mean, I didn't see it as a twist. I mean, I think that's what it was. But if it was supposed to be a twist, it's stupid because there was no twist. But there was no reason she should have got. Even though this jock she ultimately got together with was a nice guy, there should have been no reason for her as a real person to ever get with him because of who he hung out with. That alone, plus what happened with her friend, should have been enough for her if she was actually mourning to stay away. But I realize this is a movie and we have to have that relationship. That's fine. Except that she fucking mourns. She doesn't mourn, dude. She doesn't mourn for shit. She's pissed, I guess.
It's not good.
It's not good. But anyway, whatever. And then, of course, we have this big problem with the characters' plans, Okay, so this guy, basically, the guy that caused the suicide of her friend, banged her. She was depressed that's all she was to him, so she committed suicide. And he's being accused of statutory rape because it turns out the girl was 16 and he's 18. So all his friends, including the guy that Rachel eventually goes out with, band together to intimidate Rachel for some reason, just because she has these pictures that she won't give to them, but that she already turned over to the cops, basically, and admitted to the cops about. So their plan is, let's intimidate her. How is this going to help your case?
Doesn't make any sense.
How is it? And they didn't like put masks on. No. I mean, they did the little Scream rip-off scene on the phone with, sudden Donald Duck voice for some reason. What is this? Fucking don't torture a duckling? I don't understand where you got the voice from. But anyway, maybe he just imitates well. Whatever. They fine on the phone. She can't see you. She doesn't know who you are. You're just intimidating. Although what you're saying clearly implies who you are. But anyway, then they go up to the window and bang on it. And, they're their faces with a flashlight. Look at us.
Yeah. The guy breaks a window, stands in the window, and then she goes, "Who is this? You could have seen his face!"
I mean, by the end of the fucking thing, you're like, okay, maybe she didn't see that face
but then they call back.
Yeah, and then they say, this is who we are, and don't do this to my homeboy.
Yeah.
What the fuck? She could have literally just avoided all problems, gone to the cops and go, hey, look, these assholes that you already know fuck shit up, they're doing this shit to me personally. But for some reason, the cops are intimidated by 5 families.
That's another
in a
subplot.
Small town.
That's another like dumbass subplot that's in this.
Yeah, the idea is that these guys, since they come from prominent families, or not even prominent, just popular families, whatever. Anyway, in this small town, that these 5 families are gonna make the difference because of the elections. What the fuck, man? Seriously? No. Tell that to Harvey Weinstein right now. It ain't going to make a difference once everybody starts speaking up. You know what I'm saying? So, that was the stupidest shit ever. Oh, we're not going to do anything because football player guys are popular or whatever in their family. Fucking stupid, man. Retarded. Now let's... Look. Their plan was stupid. Sue's plan was stupid. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stupidity in this movie.
There is.
But I think the stupidest... except for Arnie. Arnie's cool.
Arnie's the best.
I think the stupidest thing in this movie that confused us the most was a specific scene where we see the douchebag football players, kind of like...
Oh, yeah, what was the scene?
They're in the locker room and they're plotting with each other, commiserating amongst each other in private. And, of course, the coach catches them talking.
It's like during like some presentation he's doing.
The coach is talking. And he catches them talking, and like a teacher would. What are you guys doing? You got something to say? Why don't you say it to everyone? Yeah. Oh no, not this coach.
That would be normal.
But we've already established this movie's not the most sensical movie. So what does the coach do? He comes up to the main jock guy, the main douchebag, if you will, and he demands.
He drops trow.
Yeah, he demands he takes his pants off.
Not only drops trow, but bends over.
Not only drops trow, he says, drop trow, including your fucking underwear.
So bend over.
Yeah, and bend over. So he does, for some reason, and we're like, what?
Yeah. Then
he peers directly into his bunghole.
He does.
And he says, what does he say? He says, I saw something to the effect of, I expected a tampon to be hanging out between your legs because of how your fucking gameplay is, right? That's to the effect of that.
The point is...
And we're like, what coach?
He's staring into this bunghole for an uncomfortably long period of time, and then the guy puts up his pants and sits down, and it cuts to his friend. It cuts to his friend looking at him in like approval.
Yeah, and he's like
at his ass.
He even kind of licks his lips a little.
Yeah, what was that?
I don't understand what the fuck this scene was. What fucking coach does that? I mean, we've seen some pervert coaches.
Yeah,
but. I mean, why would that be in there? Like, this is not a movie about the coach.
Yeah.
Why would he be staring into his bong, and why would his friend be approving?
His friend was like about to bang that bong, dude.
I don't understand that scene. That was 10 times more confusing than Arnie just popping the fuck up out of nowhere.
It was 10 times more confusing than
Arnie
being the spine of the movie all of a sudden.
I don't know. Oh, fuck, man. Okay, so characters we covered.
Not good.
Not good.
Oh, I want to also mention that the evil chick character is a terrible actress, and I wanted to punch her every time she's on screen. She is.
And horribly developed, because the whole time we're developing the male antagonists, and all of a sudden
she's like a non-villain.
Yeah, she just becomes a big part of the plot, and you're like, who gives a shit? Yeah. Top it all off, she's a terrible actress. Fuck, it sucks. But anyway, whatever. Characters, Actors we covered. None of it good. Let's talk about the fucking effects in this thing. There's not many. Just like the Carrie, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. And we only get the big effects when, she goes telekinetic Fury style,
Yeah.
So, or furious telekinetic style, whatever. When she goes nuts. So that's when we get the bulk of the effects, or I should say the only effects, really. And so what'd you think?
Man.
I thought, okay, effects-wise, I mean, they're fine.
They're fine.
They're suitable. Nothing really special.
Nothing's impactful.
There was some really almost bad CGI with some fire pokers. But but it was fine, whatever. They're fine.
There's one effect we have to talk about, though.
We'll get to that one, though. But as far as the attack sequence or the revenge sequence...
It was fine.
It's fine. In fact, this is the only part of the movie I enjoyed for what it was supposed to be. And that's not... I mean, I'm not putting any laurels on it. Yeah. I'm just saying that considering the rest of the movie, I was like, I can't believe this movie exists.
Are we going to talk about the scene separate?
Yes, we're talking about separate. Good. But this is the only part of the movie I enjoyed in terms of what it was supposed to be. And I enjoyed it for what it was supposed to be, yes, but in a B-grade sense. Whereas Carrie is A-list level shit, this is like a B-grade version, or a Z-grade even. It's cornball, it's hammy, the deaths are like humorous almost, especially when she pops some girl's eyes out.
That was the only one that I was
her reaction is to sling over a harpoon gun. Don't ask, she has a harpoon gun.
Yeah, there's harpoons.
And she shoots the douchebag puka shell, should be wearing a puka shell necklace, fucks nuts off, literally. I mean, by that point, you're just laughing, But some of the effects were fine, and then the overall carnage was decent, whatever. It was not worth sitting through awful dialogue, awful plotting, awful script for, but it was fine. Like, on its own, whatever, I guess. It doesn't make the movie, but it doesn't break it either. And by then, you're like, who cares? But yes, we do get, once the movie ends, which, by the way, they threw in when Rachel is dying, and her mom comes up, like you said, that she's just kind of like, you're not my daughter, and then who cares? She leaves or whatever. That scene is kind of like a bit of a throwback to the novel in a lesser sense, but it's zero effectiveness to this. Point is, just like in Carrie, our main character dies despite her telekinetic prowess, and a year later we get this coda ending,
which is just like a cheap copy of the first.
Yeah, the first has a fake jump scare kind of ending that really contributes to the effects, the aftermath of what Carrie did. This one was just like, oh, this guy survived this massacre. The guy that she loved survived this massacre, and she's still on his mind. And the way they, God damn,
it's bad.
The way they demonstrate is this: he's in college, he's doing his work. He has her dog now, I guess. Why would the parents give it to him? But whatever. He has her dog. He's doing his little homework or whatever, and the window's open. In walks the what's her name, Rachel, and she comes up behind him. He turns around. He looks at her, and she just kind of.
They kiss.
Yeah, they kiss,
And then she, like, pops.
Yeah,
she literally turns purple and explodes.
Yeah, she...
In the worst 90s CG I've seen in a while.
Yeah, man, it's like a Sub-Zero freeze from Mortal Kombat 1, or worse, 2. And then, she just breaks apart. The memory is gone, and you're like... And that's it! That's it!
It was... you're supposed to be spooked, but it was just shit.
And you're like, what is the point of that? It doesn't tell me anything other than he remembers her. It doesn't say anything about the impact she had. It was pointless, and the effects suck my dick. Now, as much as that effect pissed you off, I'll tell you which effect pissed me off.
The tattoo?
Oh my god. Okay, so this girl...
The tattoo was pointless as hell.
This girl has a tattoo on her arm.
Most 90s tattoo ever, by the way.
Yeah. This girl has a tattoo on her arm that she shared with her best friend that committed suicide, and she didn't give a shit about afterwards.
Oh man, this scene.
And when she finally, goes telekinetic fury crazy, some dude grabs her first. This is where I was like, oh no. He grabs her and he notices that the little heart, because the tattoo has a heart with thorns around it, it's beating on her, and you're like, Why would she focus her telekinetic powers on that one thing to make that one impression? That makes no fucking sense. Anyway, whatever. It's beating, and then just to top it all off, the thorns that wrap around the heart, for some reason, they start growing all over her.
Yeah.
And you're like, why? How can she control ink? How is she making ink inside of her? Is she a squid? What the hell's going on?
I don't know, dude. I don't know what that was supposed to be.
I guess it was supposed to be edgy, cool looking.
It wasn't cool, though.
It makes zero fucking sense.
Not only did the effect kind of like weens, but once she had the tattoo all over her face, it just looked cheap.
Yeah.
And
what's the point? I don't understand.
Yeah, it was lame.
Other than it was supposed to look cool and edgy. I don't understand what the fuck the point of that shit was.
Which it failed.
And look, we understand from Carrie the book, Carrie the movie, that the telekinetic, their telekinetic powers, can reach certain level. And they have to concentrate to hold the doors closed. But for some reason, she would open doors at some times and then close other doors. And you're like, why? Why would you let that guy in but not that person? And then these people get out and then you close the door on them anyway. I don't understand why you're closing doors. All right, but I can forgive all that. But why would you focus your fucking power on a tattoo growing? I don't understand. It sucked.
It's cool, dude. It's 90s.
It was terrible. So anyway, that sucked.
It was good.
But, okay, let's talk about the final thing here, the visual aesthetics of the movie. For the most part, this movie is straightforward, bland.
90s.
There's no, it's very 90s looking. There's no creativity to it. And unlike the 70s look of Carrie, that pays off and goes somewhere and is used, this thing is just, it's 90s looking. Very cheap, kind of almost TV movie-esque. Super bland, super uncreative, no flair with scenes, no flair with editing, no flair with lighting, nothing. Except every now and then
they try to make up with it with these bizarre freaking 0 frames per second shots.
Okay, to be fair, there's only like one of the when she's runs into the woods to mourn, we get this weird, 0 frames per second. The other times it's these, black and white, slightly reduced frame rate, black and white sequences
I hated these.
That are supposed to like demonstrate when she's losing. When she's stressed and her power is coming.
Yeah,
forth.
they basically show
but,
it. It's like it takes place of the weeks in the first movie.
It doesn't, but we'll get to that. Hold on. I mean, it does. It's part of it, but it's not the whole of it, and I'll get to that right now, which I'm sure you'll agree with. But yeah, it gives you that effect. You're absolutely right about that. But you're like, why would she see black and white? I don't understand. I mean, it's supposed to be an artistic choice, but it's pointless.
I hated the look. It looked cheap.
Yeah, it did look cheap. It didn't look cool. It didn't achieve anything but making you go, why? Why do we have to see? And then at the end, when she's going balls crazy, you're like, why isn't she seeing this in black and white?
That's the one time where it kind of would have been kind of neat.
Yeah, it would have actually been neat, and it would have helped the effects. Yeah. But what the fuck, man? What was this? It
just came off as 90s, like something the 90s would do.
Yeah,
like suddenly 90s. There's this like little visual flair that's cool, but not really.
It's super uncool.
It's super uncool.
And okay, this is what I'm talking about. Accompanying that, whenever she finally, flexes her telekinetic power, we don't get that weird kind of Alfred Hitchcock psycho-ish stabby, sting of music. The wing.
Yeah, I know there was a sound. I just don't remember what it was.
It's an electric sound.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And then she also has like weird electricity powers at one point.
Yeah, and you're like, what? Why is this the electric sound? I didn't find the again that
the wink winks.
Yeah, the musical stings from the first one annoying. I actually kind of liked it. This I found super annoying.
I forgot about that completely.
What the fuck is that? I don't
know
understand.
if they're gonna give her like electricity powers because she does shock someone at one point. It was bad.
It was pointless. I don't understand the sound. I don't care for the sound. It sucked. It sucked. And then in conjunction with the black and white filter, where you're like, why? It was just a total shit fest for me in that regard as well. I will say this, on the note of sound design, there was some interesting looping, as in, like, that's clearly added in post.
Oh, yeah, there was a lot of that.
What the fuck? And that happens in the first one, but you kind of forgive it because 70s.
I like my favorite
This one's like, why
My favorite one was, "Hey, come back here."
Yeah, it's like some 30-year-old man. Hey, come back.
And the guy's like this scrawny ass dude. It's like, yes.
It was weird. It was not good.
This also brings over the theme from the first movie of 80-year-olds as high school students.
Yes. There's some old-ass high school students here. And, Sue could have fit in as a high school student. This could have been one of those movies. One of those teen movies where, an oldster goes in undercover. Overall, complete fucking waste of time. If you like the original, do not see this movie. It fucking sucks. There's no reason for you to see it. There is thankfully no link other than what the filmmakers forced on there.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, the links are so forced.
Yeah, and pointless.
Yes.
Why kill Sue? Why kill Sue like that? Fine, she died. Why?
At least have her plot go somewhere. There was zero plot there. There was no point to the plot. There is a dog that runs over at one point, and I thought it was funny looking.
The dog was the best character.
He was cute.
Yeah.
No, Arnie was.
Oh yeah, I forgot Arnie. Arnie, the dog. Everybody else underneath that.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. Overall, I'm glad I avoided this movie for so long. But I'm kind of glad I saw it because now I don't have to see it again.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, this is complete shit.
I got one last thing to say. I was kind of being a little bit forgiving of the movie. I mean, it was boring. At points, it's really boring, and it's just pointless. And there was a point where I was like, man, they're really focusing on this build-up. This better pay off. And I was like, okay, I'll stick with it, as long as that payoff is good. I didn't find that payoff to be worth it. It was so short and just whatever.
Yeah.
And then they went into this point. There's a scene in the payoff in which she drowns a guy, which seemed like it went on for an hour. And the payoff was so bland and lame that made the rest of the movie shit.
Yeah, I was on the other end of the spectrum. The movie was shit.
It was shit, but I was like, this payoff better be good.
Now, I'm a pretty fair guy. I don't get bored easily. Like, I can watch something forever, and it's fine. I'll just accept it sucks. This one was like, this sucks. This sucks, and I don't want to see it.
The characters are so uninteresting.
Dialogue,
yes.
That script is fucking shit.
There's like nothing done to this character that justifies the end.
Yeah.
Unlike
nothing.
in the first movie.
Yeah.
You're just like, okay, just move on. Who cares?
Yep.
That's literally like whenever that happened, I was like, oh, okay. This could have been easily explained by just talking to someone.
This goes back to these kind of like over convoluted plots going on to make it seem like she deserves this revenge, but she doesn't.
She doesn't.
You're absolutely right. There's nothing in this girl's life besides the one thing, which is her friend's death, which they completely gloss over. They mention it, but mentioning it is not enough. This girl should have been devastated by this death. Instead, it's like, whatever, I'm going to go bang this dude now, and my life is just the normal... I wasn't in the popular clique in high school, but I wasn't ostracized and hated. I was just your casual weirdo. And that's exactly what she seemed like. Casual weirdo. Yeah, all right, who cares?
Say weirdo. She was like the
normal, really. I mean, she liked metal by the fucking posters in her room. That's about it.
That's about it.
I guess.
She had a dog.
Yeah,
she had foster parents. About it.
I mean, there was nothing that justified... You're right. Absolutely 100%. Nothing that justified it. So the buildup was shit. Yes, boring.
I was hoping that at least like the scene where she's made to seem, or they all mock her. I was hoping that at least that scene was going to be impactful enough for the build-up, for all that shit to be made up for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in Carrie, only Carrie was good. You know what I mean? That scene was like, okay, well, even if that had sucked, that's worth it.
Yeah.
This was like, oh,
nothing.
That's it? And then the little thing happens. You're like, ow!
I will point out when they do this, final reveal, and she's embarrassed, and they're all mocking her and stuff. And the implication is that her boyfriend was in on it all, which we of course know is not the truth. Yeah. Even though, of course, we know that because despite the bland ass dialogue, it's obvious, right? We know he's not in on it, but she thinks so, right? So when he shows up at the house with her, I guess would be girl enemy, which is developed like shit, you're like, oh, she's gonna be pissed at this guy. And she is for a second.
That's why it's so bad, because you're like, dude, all this could have been avoided for like literally just talking to a person for a second.
Yes, and you know what? Sue had that plan, except that the person she wanted her to talk to was an insane maniac.
Yes.
What plan is that?
Oh, also, I want to... This movie sucks. I want to add that when he reveals to her that he loved her, for some reason they have that taped. Him confessing his love to her. And she conveniently looks off to a TV that's playing it and loops that little moment over and over. And for some reason, she's zooming in. Somehow!
Yes.
This tech exists in the 90s.
She can manipulate tattoos, and she can zoom into VHS tapes where zooms do not exist. This is the best telekinetic power ever.
It's not good.
It's not good. So yeah, overall, fucking crap. I mean, this movie sucks. This is a definite shit. Thankfully, Stephen King didn't have anything to do with this other than they used the rights to the name Carrie, and you know they gave those tenuous links to it. And so don't blame him. Blame the filmmakers. It's terrible. Don't watch it. Or if you watch it, are we wrong? I don't think we're wrong. But anyway,
it was bad.
This has been Ahab and the
In
Goo
this
Tick.
long episode of Stephen King's Shit or It, I think it's worth it though.
It's worth it. So stay tuned for more episodes of Stephen King's Shit or It. We have 1922 coming up, along with the other versions of Carrie and much, much more. Signing out.